But I just wanted to, I'm not going to show a lot of pictures now. I'm simply going to talk to you for the next 15 minutes about just how complicated we structurally are and how complicated is the environment in which we find ourselves. So I know there's a place in London, I keep going on about this, called the Natural History Museum, but it should be renamed. It should be renamed because there is no natural history. There is nothing natural. It was all created by God. I would call that supernatural, and I hope you agree. The thing is, we are created in the image of God, and you've just seen the miracle of life in the womb. It is a miracle. It's unbelievable. By the way, one of the things you didn't mention is that all of our cells, they grow into eye cells and heart cells and lung cells, but something within those cells, they don't grow anymore. If they did, we'd all have cancer. That's basically what cancer is, cells growing too much. But we won't go down that avenue. So I just thought, well, what do humans actually need for life? Well, actually, there's a huge number of things we need, but here are 7. First of all, we need energy, which in our case, it comes from the sun in the form of heat and light. We need food, and most of the food we eat actually is carbohydrate. Now, I know we get proteins and fats, but we get that from animals and fish mostly, but of course they in turn eat carbohydrate. So basically we must have carbohydrate, okay? We need water, because nearly all our bodies is virtually all water. We need oxygen, because that's how we live. We breathe in oxygen and we breathe out a waste product called carbon dioxide, all right? Then we need various elements, because we're made of 60 elements, but come from the dust of the ground, if you like. We need a design system. Deoxyribonucleic acids is fantastic genetic code in all our 100 trillion cells. If you just got one of those DNA strands and spread it out, it'd be 6 foot long. And there are about 3 billion codes in each individual cell to make sure that it forms itself exactly as you've just been watching. It's not a simple thing. It's really complicated to make a human eye cell or a human brain cell or a human heart cell. That's why I need 3 billion genetic codes per cell, and you've got 100 trillion cells. Right, then what else do you need? Well, you need the design. I've mentioned the design system. Of course, you need the spirit of life too, because basically, James says, the body without the spirit is dead. Now, as a doctor, I was taught that, you know, when somebody's dead, they don't breathe anymore, and you can't feel a pulse, you can't hear a heartbeat. If you do an ECG, it's flat. If you're doing electroencephalogram, it's flat. But actually, what's really happened as well as that is your spirit's left your body. That's what happened to Jesus Christ. It says he gave up his spirit and he died. So for human life, we need all sorts of things. So we're going to look now about how God actually set about providing all these things that we desperately need in order to survive. We need all of them. We can't just have some of them. We need all of them. Right. Well, first of all, we're going to look at energy and light. Now, it comes from the sun. Now, the sun, when you're looking at the sun, what you're actually looking at is a giant nuclear reactor, but a controlled one. It's mostly hydrogen and helium, and it gives off masses and masses and masses and masses and masses of energy, huge amounts of energy. It's 93 million miles away. And it's a very important distance, that, because if we were 5% closer to the sun, all the water in the seas and all the water in our bodies would boil. That's how critical it is. If we were 1% further away, all the water in the sea and all the water in our bodies would freeze into a block of ice. So that's called a parameter. A parameter. We are 93 million miles from the sun, but it can't be too much closer and too much further away. That's very important. Now, look at the sun itself. It's a giant nuclear fission reactor. That's what it is. It's amazingly complicated, but it's also controlled. Now, you're familiar with nuclear bombs. If that giant reactor was not well controlled, it would be a nuclear bomb. Bang. And then there really would be a big bang, like the evolutionists want us to believe in it. No, it's a controlled reaction, but it is an incredibly powerful reaction. Every second, the sun turns over 4 million tons of gas into energy. Every second it converts over 4 million tons of gas into energy in the form of light and heat. Right. So the amount of energy in the sun is actually far, far greater than if the sun was made of petrol, for example. You know petrol's explosive, but actually petrol, it is very explosive, but weight for weight, the sun is far more powerful of giving off energy than petrol would be. Now we'd look at photosynthesis. You see, we need food and oxygen. Now, if you take an aeroplane, most of you have probably been on an aeroplane, as you look down at the sea and as you look down at the ground, what you're seeing is a massive factory for making food and oxygen. That's what you're looking at. Basically, the sea is full of algae and the leaves are full of chlorophyll, and the algae are full of chlorophyll as well. And what they do is they take in our waste products, carbon dioxide, they use light from the sun, and using photosynthesis, they make sugars and oxygen. What do we need? Sugars and oxygen. So the sea is our friend. The land, with all the vegetation on it, is our friend. It's not very sensible to keep cutting down the vegetation because they produce what we need. It's an ecosystem. We give off carbon dioxide, which is toxic, but they breathe it in and make it into food and oxygen. Do you think that happened by chance? I don't think so. I don't think it happened by chance at all. What else do we need? Well, just to talk about photosynthesis before we move on, it is incredibly powerful. You may think a leaf is just a leaf, but you get all those leaves and the blades of grass together and all the trees and all the algae and everything else, the rate of energy capture by photosynthesis is immense, approximately 100 terawatts, which is about 6 times larger than the power consumption of all the humans on planet Earth. There's far more energy out there than we can produce or use, far more. And also photosynthesis provides all the carbon which we use in all the cells of our bodies. What else do we need? Well, we need water. We're mostly made of water and we need fresh water. Is it by chance it rains? In England it rains quite a lot, you probably noticed, but actually we've got a bit of a drought going on now. But we need lots of water for a whole lot of reasons. All the reactions that happen in our cells, all the biochemistry, all of them require water. Everything is dissolved in water. Our oxygen, all our hormones, everything is dissolved in water. It's a solvent, in other words. We desperately need water. If you go without water for more than a day, you're not going to feel very well. We desperately need water. What about the temperature? Well, look, your temperature is very, very narrowly, it has a very narrow distribution. They've changed things now, but when I was a doctor, it was a normal body temperature was 98.4. If you go down below 97 or above 99 Fahrenheit, the enzymes in your body stop working properly. That's why it's very dangerous to have a very high temperature, because the enzymes just don't work properly. A very high temperature and you'll be dead of hypothermia. A very low temperature and you'll be dead. The Titanic's very much in the news at the moment, because we've just celebrated the 100th anniversary of the sinking of the Titanic. Let me tell you that people who fell into freezing water at minus 1 or 2 degrees centigrade would be dead almost within a minute, simply because their bodies simply stop functioning. We need all the right gases. There's mostly our atmosphere is oxygen and carbon dioxide and nitrogen. We need them in the right amount, the right proportion. We need the leaves to take the carbon dioxide away, which is toxic for us. But there are all sorts of other parameters. For example, the temperature, the temperature of the ambient temperature. I know we complain that the temperature goes up and down, but actually it doesn't go up and down very much, not compared with outer space. It has to have the right magnetic field. If we didn't have the magnetic field, actually deflects some of this harmful radiation from outer space. it's got to have the right partial pressure of all the gases. The rotation period of the Earth, if it was going too fast, we'd all spin off into outer space. If it's going too slow, the gravity would be so great we wouldn't be able to stand up on our legs. All the gravitational forces in the universe have got to be just right. For example, the moon causes the tides. If the moon was a little bit too close, the tides would be 2 miles high, we'd all be drowned twice a day. If the moon was too far away, we wouldn't have tides at all. And that actually matters. The tides do matter for the oxygen and all sorts of other things that go on in the sea. The water vapor saturation is actually very important for us. We can't live in a very water-saturated environment. We can't live in a very dry environment. It's actually very, very critical. The availability of natural resources. We're familiar with wood and coal and all these things, but they're there. We can't do without them. They're there. We need steel. We need all sorts of things. They're there for us to use. And the sunlight provides photosynthesis. The body, I'm going to be spending a whole series of programs talking about the body. The body is incredibly carefully and miraculously and supernaturally designed. You're familiar with the various systems. I'm just going to mention a few of them. Our skeleton, which is basically a crane held up by muscles. Our muscular system, our nervous system, which is a giant computer. You're listening to me now, you're not concentrating on the fact that you're breathing and you're digesting your food, but your brain is doing all that for you. Your respiratory system, your cardiovascular system, your lymphatic system, your endocrine system, your reproductive system, your liver, all sorts of other things, your digestive system, a urinary system, and the homeostasis, that's the regulation of the environment, and also other things like, if you cut yourself, it stops bleeding. There's an awful lot going on. This is the most incredibly complicated thing. Our body is the most sophisticated piece of machinery you can possibly imagine. You can't imagine how complicated our body is. You can't imagine how complicated our brain is. Our brain is a supercomputer. The supercomputers in NASA have got nothing on our brains. I'll be talking about brains just in one program, just talking about the human brain. It's a supercomputer. You know, the way our body functions is amazing. If you've got any feedback, we'd love to hear from you. info@revelationtv.com. Please write to us. We'd love to hear if you think I'm going too fast or other subjects you'd like me to cover. info@revelationtv.com. Please write in and tell us if you think these are helpful and if you'd like me to talk about other subjects or go more slowly, or show more pictures, or less pictures, or whatever it is you want. But whatever it is, what we want you to do is to see things as we see them, to the point. In other words, that you are created in the image of God, and you are actually a miracle in itself. You don't have to wait till you've seen a miracle. You are a miracle, and so am I. God bless you. Thanks for joining us, and join us again soon on To the Point. Thank you.
From heaven and gives life to the world.
Give us this bread.
Give us this bread. I am the bread of life. Those who come to me will never be hungry. Those who believe in me will never be thirsty. Now I told you that you have seen me, but will not believe. Everyone whom my Father gives me will come to me. I will never turn away anyone who comes to me. Because I have come down from heaven to do not my own will, but the will of him who sent me. And it is the will of him who sent me that I should not lose any of all those he has given me, but that I should raise them all to life on the last day. For what my Father wants is that all who see the Son and believe in him should have eternal life. And I will raise them to life on the last day.